First came Nemesis, then Nemesis Lockdown, and now we have this, Nemesis Retaliation. And we're going to be reviewing a lot of it. The legally distinct premise of this Nemesis is that you're just a bunch of Marines going inside a creature-infested facility because of your corporation, not Weyland-Yutani, just the corporation, that corporation told you to do something. But yeah, it's very much like the movie Aliens in gameplay terms. This means that we're all walking around a facility supposedly doing what the corporation told you to do, but actually you all have your secret objectives that may tell you to do something else. Essentially, some people may be working kind of together, some are working fully together, or some are working totally opposite of one another, so there's a lot of screwing over and betrayal. During the whole time, aliens will spawn around you as you move around and hear things, and there's even a very hard to kill queen that can wreck your days. So Nemesis Retaliation, that we're gonna call Nemesis 3 for shorthand, is insanely hype because, well, it's the third version of an already very popular game. I mean, it raised 21 million, so sheesh, hopefully they fixed any problems they had in the past. I've never played Nemesis 1, but Alexander has, so we'll mention some comparisons to that base Nemesis in scoring. I've personally played Nemesis Retaliation 3 times, twice 4-player and once 2-player, with one of the 4-player games using the expansion, and then Alexander played the game a lot more than me. His plays are on the screen here. We'll be briefly talking about these expansions, but the meat of this review is for the base game. Game is 2 to 3 hours for 1 to 5 players. Lastly, we're reviewing what looks to be the Nemesis Retaliation military pledge, and Awaken Realms sent everything to us for free with no promise of any content. But I just decided to make the full review for you guys, especially since people have been asking about our thoughts on Nemesis since we have so much experience with social deduct games, like Battlestar Galactica. But to really support videos like this, we got our Patreon and coffee over here. Thank you guys so much for making these videos possible. This took a long time to make. There's a lot of components in this game. It takes a long time to organize everything. Thank you guys so much. And we also got our Mad Lads of Patreon, Mad Lads of Cardboard over here. Okay, now let's get to it. How to play. Goal is to complete your secret objective. You start with 2 at the beginning of the game, and later on you will decide to keep 1. However, you must be alive at the end of the game, and oh me oh my, there are a lot of ways to die in Nemesis. But for now, just make sure your health doesn't go to 0. Example of secret objectives are having a certain player die, carrying back to the company specific alien samples, or no one is allowed to escape using the lander. There's also the straightforward vanilla one, which is completing the main objective, which you will choose one of during setup. To do this, you'll play in turns of everyone performing 2 actions. Then when you don't want to or can't do anything, you will pass. Once everyone passes, the aliens, sorry James Cameron lawyers, the intruders do their evil thing. Screw it, we'll just be calling these Prime Bloods aliens from now on. So you'll start around with 5 cards, and as an action, you just play the card, do the thing, like shooting with an additional benefit. Or you can discard a card to do a normal action printed on your board, like using items you're holding. Or you discard 2 cards to do even better actions like operating a room's ability. If you move, you go through corridors on the map of which you can never stay in, but aliens can stay there, which is really important because sometimes when you go down a corridor, you'll hear something. So you make a noise check after you move, and if there's any corridors that match your die result, you put in noise there. You heard something. If there's already noise there, you reach inside a bag and see how many and what aliens spawn in that corridor. To explore a new room, you just move through a corridor and draw a card. Then it'll give you directions on what corridors are connected to it. And if any additional nasty things happen, like spawning aliens in the corridor you came from, or you get ambushed. So let's explain how to kill aliens. Attacking aliens is based off a shoot action, which is in a room. Just discard a card and roll a die. You can also do a burst action with a gun, which is shooting down a corridor. This is based off a die roll as well, but we'll get back into this later. After all humans have passed, then it's time for the aliens to go, where they'll attack any human they share a space with, which is resolved by flipping over an attack card. Then you'll flip over an event and see what they do. Generally, they'll move towards humans and attack if they move into you. Again, attacking is just flipping over an attack card. That's the end of the round. The round tracker moves up, which is important because when it meets the lander ship, you can go back to the lander to escape, but you probably want your objective to be completed first. However, if the anti-aircraft guns aren't disabled by then, the lander will blow up, and you'll need to find another way to leave the ship. See, there's a lot of ways to lose in this game. But yeah, that's Nemesis in a nutshell. You explore the facility, rolling for noise as you move. Then you're supposedly trying to do the mission task, but you're really trying to do your secret objective, which might be doing something else. Once the round ends, generally when you don't have any more action cards in your hand, then you pass. Then all the bad guy aliens go. Then the lander gets closer to the facility, and then it's time for the next round. Pros! Let's start with component pros, and man, this is a really good looking game that just vibes well everywhere. Awaken Realms, you did it. This game looks so great on the table. Miniatures, whether they're for human and marines with their color underneath, or the robot you can find, or the lander all look cool. The picture really comes together with the alien prime blood miniatures, all of them looking properly disgusting and quite sturdy feeling despite all the skinny parts too. There's truly a feeling of getting surrounded by these real aliens, and then there's a hulking queen that is 5 to 6 times the size of you and it chases you down. We even got a dead body for when you die. Huzzah for adding to the flavor. All the other stuff just feels good too, like you got all these recessed player boards you can put tokens into, so it actually feels like a utility belt. Or moving down health is well labeled, and it's intuitive to understand that health spaces can get clogged up. Speaking of filling in holes, corridors slot into the rooms, and we've seen no evidence of these dying soon, which is important because you look and touch these constantly with the merchant map, and it's nice that the sections are divided by color. There's some other nice component nods that just work well, like the doors being 2 parts that you can open and close, and they're not too big, so when you want to mark a destroyed door, you just take a half and put it in the space. Or how when you use the ammo mag, you flip its space on the gun card from full to halfway, which feels like you're depleting it. Or when you check whether or not you're infected, you use the scanner, and they definitely pull some tricks on you with things almost looking like the word infected to add in anxiety. Simple but awesomely executed here. Even the bag where you get tokens from stays upright, which seems minor but really adds up when you keep picking up and putting this down. These optional acrylic tokens that go inside the bag, these feel great, and just listen to that sound. Even the added map doesn't feel like fluff because it helps you organize the borders of the facility. Funny how one side has outlines for the hexes and one doesn't though. There's even an insert for things. Now there is some lid lift when everything is stored, but it really saves time having a slot for all the map tiles, miniatures, and cards. And there's a takeout tray for the small yet commonly accessed things like universal red cubes. I have seen this in other Awaken Realms games though. And this box of Nemesis is just chock filled with sick art. From the event cards, then the attack cards, art on the board, character art, then all the 10 character action cards. Okay, I'm really reminded of ISS Vanguard's art with the action cards, and especially see how cards often share aspects or copy aspects with each other, but it's hard to complain when the thing they're copying already looks so good. It's such fitting, grim, yet colorful sci-fi. Oh, and for a game with so many secret motivations, it's fantastic how you can just see all of these cards through this sheet. You can just look at this really easily during gameplay. And it clarifies destruction procedure and some game terms. Iconography is also really good, especially for having a bajillion symbols and a ton of different colors going on. You immediately know when you can't do something when a bad guy is on your space, or what the lander is, or what something broken is. So while there is a reference guide on the back of the rulebook, you seldom need it after your first game. And being clear is extra good because there's a lot of secrecy going on in this game with objectives. So you don't want to risk spoiling your true motivations by asking too many questions about symbols. So enough dilly-dallying about how this game vibes. What good is all this icing on top if the core sucks, right? Well, the social deduction core is actually really solid. There is an insane amount of ways to screw other people, which lets you be really creative and also simultaneously very paranoid of everyone else. So first of all, you can never straight up attack another human, so no easy way out of just pinning someone against a wall and shooting them to death. Shooting is only against the non-humans. Look, there's so many ways to screw each other over, I've broken it down to 2 categories. First, it's directly to a person, and second is to the entire team. Screwing a person. You can move across corridors to spawn aliens to surround others. You can literally just move nonsensically to do this. Or you can pick up ammo, health, or oxygen someone else desperately needed. This happens a lot because of the initial stockpile at the spawn point. Or you can open and close doors. Oops, sorry, you're shut in with aliens. Or you can just blow up a door and leave when the aliens are knocking outside. Oops. Then there's the cards to screw someone, like duck and cover to have someone else be your body shield. Or the classic chain of command, to command another person lower rank than you to move. Go, move, I order you to die. Now let's get into the screwing over of the entire team. Bring in the anti-aircraft gun to shoot down the escape lander when it arrives to save the team. Oops. Turning off the life support. Or the classic, saying that you'll do it but constantly making up excuses not to do it while everyone's oxygen drains. Or turning the self-destruct of the facility on way too early. Or refuse to extinguish fires when the facility is burning to the ground, and if you place another fire, the game will end. Or just damage any room that the good guys need. Or just moving the lander to come as early as possible, then trying to leave with it before the others finish their objective. And the magic of gameplay is that pretty much every single thing you do on the board, even something simple like moving, has ramifications for everyone. Even if you think you're just wasting time by putting a secure on a certain location, that matters on the board. it will matter later. Now, where many social deduction games falter is not making the betrayal feel high per se, that's in a lot of games, but rather making the secret objectives feel balanced and manageable to complete consistently. Like for example, in some other games, you could get dealt a very hard tank the game win condition, but then that might not be manageable given player powers and just the way everyone is playing. So Nemesis 3 handles this extremely well by letting you lock in your objective sometime during gameplay. This is a genius way of giving you more agency and really reducing the chance of the bad objective just can't win game feeling. The rub is that the earlier you lock in, the more cards you'll draw right away. This gives more agency as you have the choice of locking your objective, then you have the massive turn of your 3 extra cards. It also makes you weigh risk versus reward well, as sometimes if you're backed into a corner and you're running out of cards, you're debating if you should just settle on an objective now to get a little bit more juice for the round. Nemesis 3 doesn't actually have once per games per character, but choosing your objective is so pivotal that it kind of feels like one. And since everyone is getting a card that will usually tell them to do the mission task, it's this exciting prisoner's dilemma of, well, if everyone picked the public objective as well, then it would be easy to win, and we can do it together. But if someone deviated, maybe I should too, but me oh my, it's gonna be hard to screw over everyone else and also survive? Ugh. The objective choosing also makes early game a lot more opportunistic and free form, where you just don't hard beeline for a certain strategy. So this is reducing the chance that you just have buzzkill games where someone just almost instantly wins because they got lucky in sabotaging things. The objective pivoting also explains why some people might start acting strange. They might start acting differently when they see something on the facility. That's really thematic. Actually, yeah, that's a perfect time to explain how Nemesis 3, even with all its different objectives and all these different components, it's able to keep its game on the rails. It's able to give you a pretty reliable gameplay experience. Let's start with the board. It's clearly split into 3 sections, A, B, and C. And so when you're exploring through each section, there's a very high chance that you'll find a tile in that corresponding stack. There's only 3 tiles for A or B because those sections already have an area explored. And all of these tile stacks have objective related things in some way. So if you really need to find the A life support, you're gonna find it fairly quickly. Sure, there's some question mark tiles in there, but the question mark tile exploration cards self-remove themselves too. Basically, you'll eventually be able to find the main story plot tiles, like an escape pod, because that escape pod will show up predictably in the C stack. This means that there's always multiple ways to escape the facility. So you're never just immediately out of the game if you do have the climactic event that the lander explodes, which is cool in the moment, but in other social deduct games, that moment passes and then you're not doing anything. In Nemesis 3, there's still other ways to escape. Then there's also how dying works, that is, player elimination. You basically will never get killed off during the first half of the game unless you're playing really dumb. You also have quite a bit of health. Aliens usually only do 1 to 2 damage, with the insta-kill cards from the big aliens, like the Queen, only happening when you reach injured or seriously injured conditions. And at that point, well, you're bleeding so much and you didn't heal yourself, so you kind of deserve it. Keeping the game on the rails is like managing the RNG from a more macro sense. So now let's zoom in to other locations where Nemesis is managing RNG very well. Like how on your turn, you can either choose the cards in your hand to play, or you can discard them to do an action on your player board. So there's nice scarcity for your character's cool abilities, but you always have the access to basic moves if you can pay for it. Then if you don't want to deal with your oxygen going down or taking damage from a fire, you can just pass and you're safe. If we look at movement, it is always guaranteed. It's just that what happens after you move is mostly in question, as you roll the noise die and spawn stuff around you or on you. This gives you this tension of when you're moving, bad stuff is probably going to happen, but you still got to move, so the game keeps flowing forward. Or if you want to be careful about being ambushed from a bad noise roll, you can move cautiously to secure your destination. Or when you attack, you're always guaranteed something off of it. Shooting puts down a red cube, and then you roll to see if you kill it by rolling under the red cube number. So even if you miss, you made some progress for later on and it doesn't feel as bad. Or bursting is guaranteed 1 hit no matter what. Sometimes you can do the repel action off of abilities, which is even better than shooting to guaranteed move something out of the room, and you can choose which direction it goes into if you catch my drift. Even searching feels sufficiently rewarding because you get to pick one of every sort of item in the room, and then just keep one, meaning that you'll probably get something you can at least use, and it gives the illusion of the room being crowded with a bunch of stuff to sift through. Actually, I want to take this time to give a dedicated shout out to the contamination mechanic. It does a lot of things very well with this ramping up tension of getting the contamination, and then eventually you get a larva inside of you. Most of the time though, you'll be faced with the uncertainty of just being contaminated, and as the cards stack up to create junk in your deck that will go into your hand, it's a constant reminder that you need to get rid of this. To explain larva, it gets inside of you from being attacked by larva or by certain card abilities. It doesn't actually do anything while inside of you until the end of the game, or a nasty event pops up. This is called eclosion, which is like an insect leaving its egg that is you, and this can happen. You draw 4 cards from your deck. If any of the cards is a contamination, you die. You have been hatched from, hooray, new life. Okay, so obviously you want to get rid of contaminations and not have larvae, and the best way to do this is to cleanse everything in the surgery room. But it's actually more optimal to wait until later in the game when you've become more dirty, then you walk there and perform this costly surgery. However, contaminations are still useless cards, so you have to weigh when's the right time to improve your hands. So you could rest with that card. Well, rest is a hilariously risky play because it can spawn larvae inside of you if the contamination happens to be infected. And after it resolves, resting only deletes non-infected contamination cards. Playing rest is kind of a last grasp of trying to free up your hand and reduce contaminations for eclosion that sometimes you just have to rest. It's the only thing you can do. Okay, I'm actually going to have another shout out, and that's to the items in this game. They all feel useful in their own way with just big enough decks. It's nice that they're organized too, which makes a search action compelling if you see a color that you like. Of course, you get essentials like oxygen or health, that's awesome to get, but there's also duct tape to carry 2 heavy weapons in a hand. Well, that is funny and feels great. Or a taser. This is probably peak item usage of getting to do the top ability, to do the cracked repellability, or you can force a player to discard all their cards. Really, don't tase me, bro. There's also the starting support equipment, which adds in a huge layer of replayability, like getting to start with armor that also gives you a space for additional health pack, or something that will not punish you for getting ambushed while exploring. Or an RPG launcher that will just blow up an entire room. Or a bayonet that you can break to defend yourself from one attack. There's 24 of these support equipment with no duplicates, so they really went to town here for replayability for the draft, which brings us to the characters. They are cool. So there's 6 in the base game, and then 1 in a stretch goal, and then also 2 as the expansion. And these all feel different from their decks. So their deck is 10 cards, and they have 5 cards that are unique to them and 5 cards that are just basic that everyone shares. And then they also have a ranking system, which is explained by the officer, my favorite, who can constantly tell people around him what to do, especially because he's the highest rank, so he can use the generic chain of command for anyone. Don't stand next to him if you're unsure of his allegiance, because I've seen many be forced to move with him into danger. Then there's the heavy gunner who's all about, well, shooting big gun. She can expend ammo to just repel anything in the room. Great against the queen, and she can burst while running through a corridor at the same time. Ah, charge! Or there's a doctor who can constantly make himself draw cards by discarding health packs, so he's like a drug addict. With the support expansion, we got the really cool UAV engineer.
UAV online.
Who has this UAV move too. And now he has a once per game of exploding it, damaging the room, and dealing damage to everyone in it.
Our UAV is online!
But that also kills all aliens. Could this be used for good or evil? But that's not it for characters. Awaken Realms decides to do something genius with the Contractor, who is a mini who could be any of these sub roles. Now granted, we haven't tested them, but this is a great way to add in some more replayability if you're desperate for it. And so all these new roles don't need their own new action deck. You could be a janitor for Christ's sakes. And cool little Easter egg that in the original Aliens, the Marines refer to Ripley as a contractor and they don't like her. And in this game, the Contractor is also the lowest rank. Anyways, before moving on, I'm just gonna say it loud and clear. Nemesis 3 has fantastic replayability. You have all these varied objectives you can draw, and then you have the 8 mission tasks that are possible for each game, and then you have all the sheer quantity of characters with their decks. It feels like pretty much infinite. Okay, while the map room selection isn't huge, because it is admittedly just 4 tiles for each section, this isn't that much, but the way they're placed is different because you have all the different exploration cards. So the facility will never quite feel the same, even if the tiles happen to come up in the exact same order somehow. The next pro is a great progression where the tension just keeps ramping up. The very premise of moving, then rolling for noise, means that noise tokens will constantly be dropping on the board. And there's really something special about seeing all these bright yellow tokens on the board because they could be any type of enemy at any quantity. It just depends on that bag, which is usually getting better aliens all the time. Then when the queen spawns, the game state is a bit shocked. Also see the event card that adds all the queen tokens to the bag. This can happen. But yeah, when the queen spawns, the game also becomes a mini slasher of a hulking queen chasing down people. You can always move faster than the aliens because you move through corridors and they have to stop on them, but the queen has so much health that she is terrifying. The lander is also a great clock as you see it getting closer as the rounds go up. so you need to get to the AA gun. But the team can also be fighting over radioing it to get closer or farther away with the chain of command. Fires can also spawn on the board or get spread through the vent deck. This adds in more threat of the facility getting destroyed, and at the very least, you taking more damage from going to more locations. And during this time, no matter what, you always roll for noise after moving. No matter how many friends betrayed you, you keep rolling for noise. Okay, this gets us to the theme meaning gameplay pros, and Nemesis 3 has so many theme meaning gameplay we mentioned earlier in the pros, so I'm trying not to repeat myself too much here. Like adding contaminations to your deck is an easy way to feel like your character is getting slower as you draw the contaminations and you see it clogging up your hand. Shooting versus bursting is such a neat choice where you can envision the mags being 100 count, and shooting is just one careful shot at something darting around the room, while bursting is holding down the trigger in a dark corridor, thus quickly emptying your mag that you literally flip over or discard. Or a grenade is a guaranteed burst of killing 3 aliens down a corridor that is also some nice RNG mitigation. Or how when you die through chest bursting, an alien comes out of you. There's just so many good ingredients to create these fantastic role-playing moments, like sprinting to the surgery room to excise a squirming larva in you, then you're spawning a ton of aliens behind you to screw over other people from escaping. Or all the ways you can get weakened through those seriously injured cards. Maybe having a situation where you're sitting next to a landing pad, it's on fire, and you're slowly taking damage with a broken leg, shooting with a sawed-off shotgun into the abyss. Maybe you're the officer and others still have to listen to you even though they know you're a traitor. Then there's a cool little wrinkle that when you try to escape the facility in any way, whether it's the lander or escape pod or habitatorium, it requires you to make a noise roll. So you could fail as you get jumped on, and then when you go inside the bag, you could get really lucky and draw a blank. Or you could draw the queen and screw over someone else. When you're in the lander too, before you flip an event card, you can just decide to leave. Like leave the game. Like if it's you and someone else strapped in the lander and they don't want to leave yet, too bad. You can leave anyways. This could definitely leave another person still in the facility behind to fend for themselves. Uh-oh. My final pro here is how Nemesis 3 is able to create these really compelling stories as your hidden motivations just push into each other or tear the facility apart trying to destroy it. Even if you're a straight up good guy, like vanilla good, you only win if you survive. And there's a lot of ways to die, so you're heavily incentivized to have other people do the main mission while you do the least amount of work, stay out of danger, and just stay near the landing pad. Like you want the team to push into C, but you don't want to be the hero. Oh no, that'd be too risky. I liken it to really that you're pointing a finger forward, that one finger is pointing forward for others to go forward, while 3 fingers are pointing back for you to go back. Cons! Component cons time. So the rulebook, while looking pretty, is often quite frustrating. So it has the table of contents on the right side, which is really neat, and we wouldn't mind seeing that in more rulebooks. However, that's a weird luxury when there's no index. Nemesis could really use an index with all of its different special abilities and phases. Like here, I'm looking for auto destruction procedure. I can't find it, so I'm flipping the page. Oh, it's probably under procedures under A. No, that's not even alphabetical. As for the actual rulebook content, its format is very confusing. It basically loves to tell you very specific things about the game before you even know what's going on. For example, early on, it starts describing every single thing involving your character, like throwing a grenade that is like bursting, but you don't even know what bursting is or how to move your character. You have no context. It also explains rolling for noise, one of the most important parts of the game, very confusingly. So when you explore, it says that you set up the room, set up the corridor, move there, and do the entrance effect, which may or may not have you roll for noise. Then in the next paragraph, it just says that you must do a noise roll after every movement. No, that's not true. There are many things that the rulebook just doesn't explain too. Like when you die, do you drop tactical tokens on your area? Because you might think tactical tokens can exist in rooms because they exist on the lander space. But these are not items, so who knows? You just have to make the logical guess yourself that they get destroyed along with everything else. I also have a big problem with the area called procedures because this might be a translation thing, but when I think of the word procedures in a rulebook, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to explain every single procedure in the game. But this only has 4 procedures and it doesn't cover other crucial things like attacking or how you can leave the base, leave the facility to win the game. It doesn't even cover that. It doesn't even have page numbers to quick find those things either. All procedures should have been again listed in a player aid that players can pass around during game. Like it would be wonderful to have a sheet that explains different ways the facility can blow up or how a human being can die. Unfortunately, there's no FAQ online like for Nemesis 1 because this is so new, so there'll probably be one in the coming months. But if you're playing upon your game's delivery, like we are, you'll probably just have to suffer through the bad rules like us. Awaken Realms' slogan is change the game. Change the game? Sure. Yeah, that's important, but you should also change your rulebook. Also, the font in this is way too small. Like, look at this. Look at this. Could have been way bigger. So while you're here on the rules and I'm here on the rules, we're all here talking about the rules, let's just share some things that are easy to miss. Intruders will fully heal when they go into corridors. You cannot force someone to move with you if it would trigger combat from the space you're moving from. Surprise attacks is under character movement, not under attacks. Intruders have a limited quantity in how many can exist in corridors. My last annoyance with the rulebook is that they should have offered a shorter game for your first go around, because with the game with so many little abilities and rules, wouldn't you want a lower stakes, shorter first tutorial so then later on, once that's easily completed, that you can jump into the full game? Okay, so now for other components, I'm surprised they didn't put the text of drone or adult on the acrylic tokens, since it might be confusing what is what. Look at these side by side. Can you tell me quickly which one is which? Also, it's funny that if you paint the minis, they'll no longer match the tokens, so it's really discouraging you from painting. And then some of the wording on cards is a bit confusing and needlessly wordy, like rest, which is a huge 2 paragraphs, where instead it could have been like this. Or how it's printed again on the exploration cards that you place a secure token when moving cautiously. Everything else had to be made smaller to make room for this pretty much useless text. Everything else on the card is unique, and placing a secure token never changes. No need to put that here. Now let's go into some other component issues, like how every single player board should have listed what starting item you start with, because that'd be a much easier way to find the card if it's face up. Also, give more info about the character when you're drafting. We have one last graphic design problem, which is kind of like iconography, which has to do with the armor versus serious wounds. So they both look like they have similar tops, but they actually operate way differently. Serious wounds clog up those health slots on your board, so the health marker must pass them and then return back over them. Armor, on the other hand, also clogs up health slots, but gets destroyed the moment your health marker were to go on it. So why even have these be boxes in the first place? Why not make them more different? This video is brought to you by Curiosity Box, the world's first subscription for thinkers. It has a bunch of really cool things inside. Look at me unboxing here. Puzzle me twice. Very cute. Nice. So yeah, my box had a bunch of goodies, ranging from a shirt that has 2 optical illusions on it, whoa, a prism that creates color illusions with the light as you put your eye up to it, and lastly, math chopsticks. Wait, what? Yeah, these really stood out to me, as you can eat and then do math by using the functional slide rule scales. This will be so fun to eat with. That's Curiosity Box, filled with science toys, brain puzzles, books, and more. Check out more in the description below, and if you sign up for a subscription, you'll help the channel. Anyways, back to the review. Scoring! Now it's time for a recommender score on Nemesis Retaliation, where we try to critically evaluate the aforementioned pros and cons, with the caveat of whether or not this is even a good idea in the first place. And this is a semi-cooperative social deduction game with aliens jumping around. It's about 2 to 3 hours, and there's plenty of opportunities for betrayal. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Like, the premise is so solid that the corporation tells you to do something, but maybe your boss has secretly just told you that you need to do something. This is an easy recommendation at 9 out of 10. It is excellent. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it the Shelfside certified label right there. This is a game that personally is really gonna stick with me. The biggest hurdle that Nemesis Retaliation has is all its little rules. The systems aren't complicated, but there's just so many little things, like how infection works, or how escaping works with the lander, or even just the fact that there's 3 ways to escape. And it has all these because it needs to juggle all of its different win conditions and thematic elements. I'm doubling down on how this needs a much better rulebook and probably more hand-holding for your first game. Yet after you get through all that, that is probably after your first game, Nemesis 3 should fall into line pretty readily as a very flavorful thematic experience. There's just gonna be a lot of stories here to tell, like given the detail of the rooms, or maybe how just one action can end up screwing the entire team. And then you get all these diverse items, and then you have these scary aliens just running around, and then the core gameplay doesn't collapse like other social deduction games can. Yeah, you can just keep laughing all the way to the lander. Oh, shoot, maybe the lander blew up. Here's some other stories we encountered. Someone just camps the lander pad and pushes the lander up every single round. He wants to escape ASAP. Or the heavy gunner was desperately fixing the ammo room to grab all the mags. Now he has 4 loaded mags. Let's kill that queen. But before he could reload, someone else activated the queen, so the queen jumps on him and just mauls him before he could even reload. Or how someone insisted that he won because he was told that a human must escape back to the company while being alive. Well, he himself was contaminated, but then one of the contaminations wasn't infected, and then he chest burst when flying away from the facility. So he died and lost, but he kept claiming that he won, and he kinda did because his objective was literally achieved, but also he technically didn't win because he died.
But so good for you.
Interesting. Okay.
No, he still lost.
Oh, he still lost.
He lost, but he completed his objective successfully.
My headcanon is that I was working for some kind of like Wayland Yutani group, and they're just like, we just need the samples. Everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just a drug addict.
And that's the mindset you should have when buying and playing Nemesis. It's so thematic and so interactive that it shouldn't really matter too much about who wins or loses. It's about the stories that come up. If you play this game to win all the time, that you must win consistently, well, there is admittedly still a lot of silly RNG, so you can't guarantee that you yourself will survive and win. The RNG mitigation in the pros does a good job of almost guaranteeing climactic endings, but not guaranteeing you wins for doing all the calculations. And while I haven't personally played Nemesis 1 or Nemesis Lockdown, Alexander has informed me that there were many changes here to make the game easier for the good guys, like how the fire doesn't spread as much, or how the facility doesn't get destroyed by breaking rooms anymore, or how the group victory is based off of one anti-aircraft gun check instead of 3 separate FTL drives that must be checked, so there's more ways to get screwed. So yeah, if you're willing to put in the hours to learn this game, which is going to be much easier if you played the previous Nemesis games, and you have a group of 3 to 4 willing to invest the time together and love screwing each other over while still playing by the genuine principle of playing to win, then go ahead and just buy the core game. I released a video about a year and a half ago about the problem with social deduction, and Nemesis actually fixes a lot of those issues, like problems with player elimination, and even the bad liar issue gets kind of boarded up because you can switch your objective. Or how there are just so many distractions and levers you can pull that you can blame as why things are going badly. The freedom of switching an objective also helps tune in the balance a little bit more. Now, obviously, Nemesis still has a problem of newcomers not handling secret information well, and because it is a complicated social deduction game with a lot of talking, then yes, the game time can easily balloon past 3 hours. But hey, long, meaty social deduction games will pretty much always have these inherent issues. In many ways, Nemesis feels like the modern Battlestar Galactica, a big box game filled with theme, tons of betrayal, yet this has none of the clunky randomness of BSG. And then being revealed doesn't involve you sitting in the brig and doing nothing. And the aliens theme actually is a lot more relevant nowadays because they're still making movies and it's a lot more widespread of a theme. And little fun thing, BSG and Nemesis both have a ranking system for characters, and I couldn't help but get reminded of shades of Executive Order through the Chain of Command card. But look at how this modern version not only looks better, but is multi-use. Hooray for more than a decade of board game development. And in many ways, Awaken Realms has taken this mantle from FFG, this crown of being the go-to AAA Ameritrash big box game. Although FFG just kind of sacrificed the mantle themselves because, well, their LCGs are just way more profitable, and after they got bought, they decided to go a lot less risky, which I understand. But good thing we still have TI4 codexes. Anyways, if you're fairly new to board games, see if someone can teach you Nemesis 3 first before you buy the game. Or you could take it really slow by starting with the full co-op mode at the beginning, although that should really just be used as a sample of what Nemesis truly is, since gameplay shines when there is at least the threat of betrayal. Now for the bonus mini review, the Sangrevores Expansion. So this part's going to be, well, not really relevant if you're just interested in the base game, so you can skip ahead to our scoring. And also, we only played this once. And in this box, all of these prime blood aliens, the ones you normally play with, they get replaced by vampires. And yeah, this actually is just not very good. So it adds the vampire minis and art, which are incredible looking, with new decks for events, exploration, and attacks. There is a couple of major rehauls with enemies. The first is that noise is rethemed to something called a shadow token, of which up to 3 can exist on a space. If you were to place the 4th, you clear the tokens and put down an elite Spectre unit. You can now burst at the shadow tokens to remove them. Then the expansion removes all noise rolls, where every time you move, you guarantee put down a noise token for every corridor at the destination except for where you came from. To keep up the danger aspect, if you move through a shadow token, you flip over a card that probably damages you, and a lot more of the exploration cards ambush you. In the long term, this actually hurts the flavor and tension because it makes the consequence of moving feel way more mechanical and linear. Oh, when you move, boom, a bunch of shadow tokens appear. If they had 3, then it's always a Spectre that appears. This reduces the frequency of which you reach inside the bag, which in turn reduces the boss activation possibilities, so he's less of a threat. The boss is now rethemed into a king that mostly just has less health. He does have abilities to interact with some of the new mechanics, but you have to hurt him to have him flip over these cards. He doesn't do these on his own. Another issue of the Sangrevores is how it does infections now, which was an annoyingly fiddly and not worth it process. So instead of contaminations that maybe are infected, everything is guaranteed to be infected. So there's no more tension of there maybe having to cleanse them with the cool scanner. You just have to wipe them before the game ends. And there's no larva threat anymore. Also, this makes text that asks for contamination cards really confusing because these infected are contaminations, but are just the bad contaminations. Don't play this expansion with newcomers. So what's really the upside of this box then? Well, you have these tainted blood cards that you can acquire when you get penalized for probably being attacked. These give you this once per round ability, which lets you interact with the vampires more, so maybe you can kill them easier, or maybe you can just force them to move. That's fine, but again, this expansion just really isn't improving the base game for all the little mechanics it's adding. I admit, the box and the art does look really cool. However, I discovered that this expansion has some drama online because it's not really what was initially advertised. It claims that your character could get converted. So I went through every single card and it's a definitive no to all of these. The claim that your character could get converted. No. A Crimson Despot can affect you. Doesn't exist. Or the king gets stronger with every player elimination. No. What happened here? The rulebook and components feel like they're cut in half if they're offering all these things? Very odd. Yeah, I would be furious if I paid good money to back this expansion thinking that it's maybe like BSG, where you could become a bad guy off of in-game events. Nope, that's not the case. This, if I were to give it a recommender score, I only played it once, but just shooting off the cuff, it's probably like a 3 or 4 out of 10. It's just not what it promises to be.
I would give Nemesis Retaliation, or Nemesis 3, a 9 out of 10. It's excellent. I have played the first Nemesis, Nemesis 1, OG Nemesis. I never touched Lockdown or Aftermath or anything else. And I also really like that game, but it had some problems with player agency, and it was more focused on being a survival horror experience. This is like Aliens to Nemesis if Nemesis is alien, and I love it. I really like the components. I think they get you very immersed in the world. It really sells the feeling of being a science fiction game with maybe, you know, some inspirations from Aliens, so it kind of has like some analog sort of feeling to it. The minis are all fantastic. What I really like is that the anti-aircraft battery token is 2 different tokens. So that way, when it's sitting on the table and you go to check it, everyone can see you pick it up and like look at them and change them. So they can see that you physically move the pieces around. There's lots of little touches like that that build on top of each other that make this game very good at generating paranoia or tension. The purebloods, that is the alien you get in the starting box, they're cool. They sort of have a H.R. Geiger-inspired aesthetic, but they're mostly, it's more like the Neoflesh is kind of like the Terminator, self-replicating machine that will just keep hunting you down. The problem with their tokens, mechanically, the Neoflesh do not just have one adult. They have 4 different types of adults. So when you draw adult tokens from the bag, tell which adult is which, and they're very different. It's not like you can just pick one randomly. I played 2 games with the Neoflesh. Every single time I drew from the bag, when I drew an adult, I had to like hold it in my hand and then look at it, and then I had to look at the cards on the board, and then I had to pick up all the plastic bags and I had to look at them and see like, huh? The reason I give the game a 9 and not a 10 is simply because the act of physically playing the game is very tedious. It's very time consuming. It takes 30 minutes by myself to set up the game, and it takes 30 minutes to put the game away. I have to shuffle all the hexes for the different types of rooms. I have to shuffle the exploration deck, the attack deck. It's not that big a deal because playing the game is such a blast that I forget that I even set up the game in the first place. I'm so immersed in the game's world and trying to figure out how to win that I don't really think about that too much. Overall, I really have no complaints with the gameplay at all. So I didn't like in base Nemesis that when you walk into a room with another character, you don't have to roll for noise, because it kind of encouraged everyone to stick together in a party, which is fine for the story it was trying to tell, but I would always play with people who want to go off on their own thing or do their own thing, and that just generated a lot more noise, and you generated a lot more aliens, and the aliens were a lot harder to defeat in the original Nemesis because fighting them was so much more random, and like if you found a larva in a hallway, you should be afraid of it because it could easily infect you. But in this game, you just blast it away. You just pop it and it blows up into jelly. That's great. I really enjoy the social deduction aspect of the game, trying to figure out what are my friends, teammates, whatever they are, whatever they're trying to do. Are they actually going to help me? How can I subtly encourage them to help me? I really like the extremely varied and also story generating, as in memory generating ways that you can play this game. Because basically when you play it, you're going to have a different experience almost every time. And I just really love that. When you can walk away from game night with a story. Yes, I played 2 expansions that Ashton has not yet to play. I played the Neoflesh expansion and the Xyrians. So the Neoflesh expansion, as I briefly mentioned, they're like a metal AI that's gone haywire and it's starting to like harvest people around the map. And I think the Neoflesh expansion is probably like an 8. It's pretty fun. It's a lot more hardcore. It really requires everyone playing to know what all the different adult types do and how they interact with each other. So the other expansion I played is much smaller. It's the Xyrians. It adds in a third-party alien who are kind of unpredictable. They don't show up at the start of the game. It's random when they arrive, and when they do arrive, they're super dangerous. They're very hard to defeat. But if you can defeat them, you get a really nice reward. You can basically take one of their items. The box kind of says that they're gonna like change up the game and it's kind of unpredictable what they'll do, but it's actually kind of predictable. If you're in a room with one of them, they're gonna shoot you. That's basically 100% of the time that'll happen, but they'll also kill all the aliens in the room with you. Once you've played a few rounds with them, it's actually pretty intuitive to figure out what they're going to do. And for 2-player, for 3-player, they're a fantastic addition, probably like a 9, maybe even a 10 addition. They don't scale very well with 4-player or 5-player, because a lot of their cards, their statuses and their items, and also their number, are in 3s, so you can only ever have 3 of them. Yeah, so the game for me is almost perfect as far as the gameplay goes. It produces wonderful moments of jubilation, and it's also cool, the social deduction aspect of it. Maybe along the way, even though players might have selfish, individualistic goals, they kind of end up working together anyway. I love almost all the systems that are in play in this game, and I also love the theme. I play it all the time.
Wow, what else can you say? My personal score for Nemesis Retaliation is going to be a 8 out of 10. I have a great time with it. So yes, this is Shelfside certified, and as I mentioned before, this solves a lot of the problems I had with long social deduction games, as mentioned in that video. However, this doesn't quite hit the 9 out of 10 personally for me. It's really close, but I'm reserving that really high placement for now because my last game was with this. So yeah, that's souring my experience. And then also, I think the game is a little long-winded for me, but I can see my score improving in the future, especially if I play with the other expansions, of which Alexander has told me they are far better than this one. I really can't shake the feeling that Nemesis 3 is a bit more cumbersome than I would like. It takes so long to set up all the decks. There's a lot of little components to set up, and you have to be extra careful about setup too because there's secrecy at play. It's a bit of a mini game, and how many degrees or how many grown adults does it take to put away a board game and it's 6 boxes? But still, it feels like it's worth it. And I don't think this game will ever, for me, go lower than an 8 out of 10 personal unless I play it like dozens of times. So let's get into what I like. Nemesis 3 looks awesome for me everywhere. The minis look fantastic to me unpainted, and I generally can see everything that's going on, and the base game feels like it pretty much has no bloat for all the bajillion components with it. That's impressive. Okay, the robot might be a little fiddly for me, and I don't like explaining it to newcomers, but I could easily see it being handy in certain games. Then, the concept of having character asymmetry all come from their decks is such a simple way that I like in how flavor was implemented. I was never overwhelmed with asymmetry given how the game already has so many finicky, yet interesting win/loss conditions. Then I can just enjoy how rounds are structured as you draw 5 cards and decide when to pass. It just becomes simple halfway through the first game once I memorize the premise of each card. It's really just simple enough so I can focus on the sus stuff. And you guys know me, I like social deduction. You can tell that I used to like more social deduction in the past with BSG, but the idea of social deduct is really exciting to me. So in this game, I feel like it handles the tension of social deduct really well. Like there's a tension of maybe being ordered around by a higher ranking character, or you have your 2 objectives, you're constantly deciding which one to use, which one to go for. And then there's also who can I trust on the board, and maybe I am allowed to stand in the same room as them if I think they're a good guy. There are so many levers to pull that despite the game being relatively simple to me, if I want to, I could go pretty hard on theory crafting a slick way to destroy the facility and escape, or finally excise that larva from my chest and jump with the lander, and then I'm faced with the moral dilemma of, should I just save my hide first and just leave, guarantee win the game, or should I maybe wait around for the buddy that's been working with me the entire game? It really is like a movie. The Sangrevore experience I had was probably Nemesis 3 at its worst. In this last game, there was no way I could win doing the good public objectives because I misplayed really hard, and there's no way I could win doing the good public objective, which I locked in, and so I was just walking around just poking at things and pretending I could win for an hour and a half.
How many ways can we get screwed in the game?
It's been rough.
I should have been helping you guys more with this.
That's okay.
Well, I'll explain later when you see my thing.
And so this isn't great gameplay anymore, but I wasn't as bored as I'd be in other games when this happens because the vibe at the table was still good and I'm just so thematically invested in doing things. It's just fun to do things in this world. Oh, and this was a game with the officer at the burning landing pad with the lander that was already blown up and he was just yelling that he won while he shot the vampires. Again, the vampires aren't as tense as the real normal aliens, but this was still a nice cinematic moment we could all laugh about. This is all to say that I believe Nemesis Retaliation's best moments, with or without the other expansions, are ahead in the days to come. It makes me giddy for social deduct. I could see a moment of pretending to switch the AA gun from active to inactive because a traitor messed with it. Then I really don't move it at all because I'm a traitor too. Or setting the station to blow, then dying with everyone as a tragic loss. Or even if my first game, when I was running around the queen with my buddy who was an officer, if we both understood the game better, we could have done some more cheeky plays of attacking the queen or ordering each other around. Nemesis 3 is one of the top games I'm curious to play multiplayer with right now to see if it can hit that 9 out of 10. And for this game's enjoyment, it really helps that a lot of people I play it with just really want to play it again and they get so immersed in it. And also for me, it really doesn't have any competition right now. Dead of Winter sucks. Battlestar Galactica is more of a thematic event with some really high highs and low lows. Unfathomable is fine, but ultimately I don't really care about the theme enough to play it again. So there's Human Punishment at the beginning, and that game is so complicated and way too long for me. And I don't really care about its specific cyberpunk theme. I give it a personal score of a 5 out of 10 for being very intriguing with all of its different motivations for the roles, yet I'm often agonized and frustrated at how complicated and long-winded it feels. Other guys in our group did like it though. So yeah, back to Nemesis, I wouldn't be surprised if this game eventually hit my top 10 games of all time. Is it gonna hit top 5? I don't know, but top 10? Yeah, probably. So this is a meaty social deduct game that will be my baseline now. Yeah, let me know what you think of this game. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Bye-bye.
Are you recording?
Yep.
Yeah, he's gonna break it, isn't he?
Yeah, we got something.
He's gonna break it.
I'm gonna kamikaze the drone.
He's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me.
In a room with the UAV and in all corridors adjacent to that room, destroy all doors, deal lethal to all intruders, and each human there loses 3 life.
UAV online.
Still alive?
2, 3. But I have 1 health left.
Dude, that's sweet.
These are all blown to smithereens.
Okay.
These guys are all dead. They're in the corridors adjacent.
Oh.
You took 3,
That's
and then this thing gets damaged and on fire.
Oh. That's bad.
Well, I guess I'll just have to exfil with you guys.
All right, and I pass.
Okay.
Heroic UAV.
I had a feeling that was super sus.
Okay.
This is Tino.
It is. It's kind of the best you could hope for. Great.
Your heart was beating so fast that the
Yeah.
larva came alive.
Yep. And I just sprinted too, and I had to use extra oxygen for that.
It was like
Yeah.
the reverse of Crank.